Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to this week's edition of Jawin with Jack, the best Monday night podcast that you can find. Streaming every Monday night from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. And this week, I welcome my special guest, DM Raptor, and he is the friendly clubhouse referee running the Brocultic play-by-post Call of Cthulhu game, and also participating with me in Drakenheim. And I brought our special guest on here to tell all kinds of turkey about this stuff tonight. But DM Raptor, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello, everyone. I'm just an average working stiff that his whole tism is running RPGs, I guess.
It certainly seems that way, given the detail I've seen from you in the play-by-post game. Now, how did you get started in RPGs originally? Are you an old head? Was it the late 70s?
I've been playing for 33 years or 34 years. I don't know, somewhere around the 90s. My friend's mom didn't know what she was doing, so we used to basically we didn't know what LARPing was, but that's what we were doing. We played this game we all invented called Quest, and we would get our wooden swords and our cheap toy store bows with the little sucker arrowheads and go run around in the woods and play Lord of the Rings, because we all had this game. Yeah, we all read Lord of the Rings. We all read Conan. So they weren't so like esoteric back when I was a kid. My mom was like, "Here, you should read this, like The Hobbit, and you should read this book."
Conan, yeah.
Yeah.
Conan was not very popular where I was growing up, but I did read Narnia as a kid, so at least I had that going for me.
And so my friend's mom was just tired of us taking her sickly little like precious boy out in the woods. And she bought Dungeons and Dragons, but she didn't know what she was doing. We had the basic set, we had the first edition DMG, we had and the Monsters Manual, and we had a campaign setting, Menzo Baranzan, which was for second edition and set in Forgotten Realms, but we had a Greyhawk book that was a early, like, proto first edition Greyhawk, for like for the white box.
Wow.
And
where did she even get that kind of an assortment of random crap?
There was this bookstore like 30 or 40 miles away called Roundhouse Books, and it's actually where I went and got my first set of dice, which I still have.
Okay.
And they had so much weird, wacky stuff. Like, the guy was a huge super fan. And then he kind of just is like, okay, I'm getting old, so everything's like free. And anyone that came in, he was just like, here, you can just have this. Like, I've made enough money. He's like doing it forever,
Right.
He's just tired of doing it.
Wow.
And so I got I still have my Fighter's Handbook for second edition, because again, we didn't know what we were doing. We had basic, first edition, and second edition. And eventually we went to first edition. Because then the guy was like, you know what? Like, I swear, like, I thought it was just because I didn't know what I was doing, but these are different editions. And we were like, what are editions?
Yeah, what do you mean by that? What is this edition? Like, we don't have a chess second edition. We don't have a second edition checkers. But, you do see rules updates to the NBA or NFL occasionally.
Then you kind of fast forward to third edition, and we were like, oh, third edition, that's the edition, and we're going to play third edition. And this wasn't like 3.5. This was original third edition. I don't like 3.5. I don't like Pathfinder. It's too complicated. Third edition, it still kind of was like, it was still old school a little bit. There's these hints that Wizard Coast knew. I feel like they had to keep these little old school things to get all the old players over. But eventually we water it down,
I kind of get you. My major big campaign that I ran was in third edition, and it was one of my personal favorite campaign was in 3rd edition, and I later played 3.5. And something did feel really different about it. On the surface, mostly from a player perspective, I thought I liked a lot of the tweaks and stuff like that I had seen. So I thought, okay, this is actually better in a lot of ways. But I think you're right. There was something lost in that refinement that, led to Pathfinder and then 4th edition.
Well, that's why this whole like Braunstein and BroSR thing, that's actually how I've always sort of played. I did get a lot of things wrong because eventually you're like, whoa, maybe I should try to do more of this, like this other new style that's coming out. And I forgot all the old stuff. But in college, I ran a 100-person game, not on purpose at all. I put a flyer up in the Commons. It was like, you need players, Mile High Comics. I was going to college in Denver. Like, show Mile High Comics at like 12 p.m. on Sunday. And 100 people showed up. And they're like, well, we can't find a game.
Okay, what did you do with 100 people?
I split them up on the different parties, and I was like, all right, who wants to be a party leader? I need 10 party leaders. And then split it up into 10 groups of 10 people. And I just I appendixed, B like a dungeon. And I had this, and we were like, well, we don't have enough maps. And the guy that ran the comic shop, like, it was a very tiny comic shop at the time in 2003. He was just like, I've never had this many people. And he was giving us dice. He was putting tables together. He was getting all of the Chessex battle maps out. And we had a huge table. It was like 8 feet wide and probably like 20 feet long and full of Chessex battle maps. And so for each party leader, I drew a little section of the dungeon for him. And I was basically like, okay, the mapper is the one that's going to randomly roll what the dungeon is. And we went across the street and photocopied like the stuff out of my 1E DMG, because I still used it even though I was running 3rd edition. I still used all my 1E stuff. I still had all of my monster books because I liked them better. I had probably like the silliest, most hybrid game that, maybe nowadays if I did the same thing, I could have actually sold what I did. I had this huge manuscript.
Oh, right. Your hodgepodge of all the various things.
Yeah.
Hey, welcome aboard, Nemo. Glad to have you.
Yeah, and that's kind of like how I ran games, and I am known in this town I'm in for doing that. And actually, see, I have to correct you a little bit. Bro Cultic isn't just play by post. I have a party of people that run at my house. I have investigators at my house, and they communicate with the investigators in the Discord.
I like it. We're crossing boundaries. It's an in real life game overlapping with the play by post.
And there's some locals that have flaked out, so their characters kind of just like are sitting there in my shelf. They're like, I didn't really like it. There's a teenage girl. It's a daughter of one of my players that really likes it, but she wants to play in summer. And it's really funny because she stole a bunch of jewelry from a haunted house, and she's actually the richest character in the game.
Oh. For a second, I thought you were talking out of character. I really
no.
There.
No, this is all a game.
Well, you're outing this girl pretty hard publicly. Oh no, okay. So in
and
character,
but when she started, she was homeless.
Hear that, FBI? No crime was committed. It's fiction we're talking about.
Her character was homeless when she started, so it's like this huge story arc, but she isn't here yet. But the game still keeps going on, even though when you're not here.
Right.
The world is moving. And I was saying that earlier when we were doing our little pre-chat. If you don't pay attention, things can change so fast that you'll come back to a world that, like, well, everything's changed. Like you're saying, there is a character that blocked out the sun because the whole goal of patrons in Bro Cultic is they have to summon some sort of god.
Yeah.
And ask for a boon. And whoever's the first to do that wins the game. Now, that doesn't mean the game is over. That means that campaign is over. Essentially, you could think of a campaign is like a story arc or a book in a book series, right?
Yeah.
And it keeps going. An author will still keep writing for those characters. And so we're sort of in a transition period to the next Brocultic campaign. We're doing a Braunstein on an ocean liner because the next campaign's in Egypt. So it's the 3-week trip to Egypt.
Yes. I've been lax. I'm catching up right now.
I know you lost a character, you lost your manservant, someone murdered him and took your stuff.
I know. I'm quite peeved. I'm gonna have to address this offense as soon as I can get my thumb out of my keister and get focused on it. But well, trust me, there shall be sweet revenge.
It's all right. There's a lot of we had to take that break over winter, over Christmas, and I knew taking that break it was going to lose a bunch of people because my momentum has to keep going. I just have run quite a few of these kinds of games where once the momentum halts, it's like people are like, okay, I can take a breath, and then they're like, oh my god, I really need to do some other stuff besides play this game.
It's a bit absorbing. Yes, I can only imagine what it's like for the dungeon master. But you were saying this is your tism, so I understand. This is how you stim.
Well, a lot of this stuff, like how I set up the city of Arkham, for instance, is a Discord thread with each of the neighborhoods as a post, and then I put each building or whatever in there. That's all just like I've been playing Call of Cthulhu for so long. It's all just stuff I've had.
Good friend Mr. Garibay throws a question out there. Braunstein, every time I hear that, I wonder what the user of the term actually means. It seems like a highly debated term. I myself am squirrely with the definition. Would you lay one on us?
Let's see. I have said this like so many times on Twitter, but then I get away from Twitter because I don't want to argue with people all the time. But it's a multiple player, multiple objective PvP game. Each player has a different set of objectives. I like to usually use 3, and you cross them. You cross paths. You cross streams with each player because you have to push the players together for what we call convergence.
Right. Their goals will be at odds with one another, which will naturally result in conflict.
So hopefully that makes sense. I mean, it's not really a highly debated term unless you're part of a certain group of grognards that get offended with everything online.
Well, it is. Yeah. Braunstein was the doctor. It's Braunstein's monster. Well, and that's the problem is it is actually a highly debated term because there is a way in which I think Griff is right in saying that, well, no, you're not doing a Braunstein because that's Wesley's.
I actually agree with him on this point.
Yeah,
now,
I actually do as well.
One shot.
Yes, we are, Mo, talking about Call of Cthulhu Braunstein.
Well, I would call this, as B-Dubs calls it, a total nonstop Braunstein, is what Brocultic is. Now, what I was just talking about is a Braunstein because this ocean liner trip to Egypt is a short event.
Yes.
It's going to be over on February 7th or 2nd. I don't remember the exact end date. I am. Yes, February is next month. Good.
I had to check. I was going. Wait a minute. It's been a crazy couple of weeks. So I mean, who knows what's in store for us?
But it's this event is to give people like an edge because some of the goals are like things like for the next campaign. The next campaign, everyone's going to be searching for some sort of artifact to close the rift that have been torn open over Arkham because of another player's contacting a god. And what actually happened is 3 players contacted a god. And so there was a god off. And one of them won.
Well, Darn it. And I was so behind the game because I was just really starting to think about, well, what do I got to do exactly to summon my guy here?
Well, as an example, Barrows Books, he plays an investigator.
Oh,
And
Barrows. Oh, that
and
guy.
so what's been happening on the ship is there's people that have been going missing. A non-PC, Chad Peterson, supposedly committed suicide, but he left behind the only thing that he left behind was like a pair of crumpled clothes on a chair that smelled really weird. And so I leave these clues and they try to track him down and they tell me what they're doing. And this is actually a couple characters are involved in this. And he was chasing this and then he completely forgot about all the goals I gave him because it had nothing to do with Chad Peterson. It had nothing to do with these missing people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he was like, I got so distracted, I forgot what I was actually supposed to be doing in the game. But that's my point, because you have to throw out, red herrings once in a while. So you get people to chase down false leads. And as the referee, I laugh to myself.
Now, that's something I would disagree on. I think comparatively, I'm a neophyte running mystery games, but I have found that even introducing mystery elements into my D&D games and otherwise, I never introduce a red herring because the players are far too good at making them up on their own. Like they jump to a conclusion very early on, and you can never convince them that they're wrong. Like
all I did was
I never have to introduce red herrings. They're good at making them up on their own.
Well, all I did was say this person committed suicide. He had his goals already, so he completely has obsessed about finding what happened to Chad Peterson, which I giggled about because I just let a little seed. Okay, you're really focused on this, so I'm gonna put some more rumors, out about him. And yeah, there is a case here, but it isn't the main case. But mysteries are sort of, because you're actually correct. But there's also this thing in Cthulhu with like skill rolls, right? So what happens when you critically fail a mythos check, a Cthulhu mythos check?
That's a good question. I have no idea.
It's a red herring. That's what happens.
Okay.
Because sometimes, it's the way the system works. And for your guys' game, I make all the rolls because it's just play by post. It'll get play by post, get clogged down.
Well, and things like that, what you just mentioned, I don't think I should know I critically failed a mythos roll given the style of play that we're, because that way you give me a piece of information and it could be hilariously opposite of what I think it is. I do this ritual and I will have ultimate power. Actually, it just destroys me in the East Coast or whatever. Now, I wanted to mention Scott here had it seems like your definition is accurate. I, however, would really struggle in that game. I would hate the players are my enemies. Interesting that you found players that want to kill other players. And, and again, at the risk of being pedantic, we are specifying characters. I made that mistake with the young teen girl player earlier.
Yeah, we're not going into each other's houses and unloading magazines or anything.
Yeah. One-to-one life. But
you know what? No one's really. So there's a. I guess I should explain. Like, there are actually two types of players in my game, in Bro Cultic specifically. There's patrons who run organizations, and there's investigators who I give them 3 pre-made characters. I pre-make everything. I don't let anyone make anything. I have a story I want to tell, but it's players' actions that make it different. I don't know the outcome. I don't have predetermined outcomes, just predetermined actors in this thing,
Right.
And
right.
The patrons are all runners of cults. Patrons are evil, investigators are the good guys. Right?
Ostensibly.
No, they are. Until they lose all their sanity, then they're bad guys. Bad guys have no sanity. That's just like that's how I've had to separate the two, because there's these differences that happen. In spells in Call of Cthulhu, they require sanity and magic points.
Yes.
Now, a lot of these patrons, I've given them, like, for instance, the Cannibal Cult. That's an established cult that's in the game. You know, the Arkham Witch Cult is an established cult in Arkham. The Mafia is an established, like, organization in Arkham itself, and also the Syndicate. They don't call it the Syndicate. It's just like the O'Bannon gang.
Right.
But I was like, you know what? They're Irish and Jewish. They're all the people, because the Italians, it says they're racist, and they only accept Italians.
Right.
Game,
right? Everybody else goes to the other gang.
Yeah, exactly. They're the minorities of Arkham banding together into an organization, and so they're all bad guys. I just described all terrible people.
Now, describe for a minute how you structured the Discord server. Because the amount of detail that you went into is actually pretty incredible.
It's a lot of it is from trial and error, but my Discord is a community, and when your Discord is a community, you can create things called forum posts, and these are like nested posts. It's different from threads, like a thread on a channel. And so
forums seem kind of new on Discord, but they are definitely much more functional. I'm starting to use them myself.
So that helped a lot with, like, Arkham. So each post could be one of the 10 districts of Arkham, and then I can put the buildings. But all I really did was just copy how, like, the 6th edition Arkham book sets it up. Because that's how they set it up. They have, like, so many buildings, and of course they're all, like, buildings from H.P. Lovecraft stories, so I had to, like, edit a lot of that. See, the problem with the Arkham book, I could have just give you guys the Arkham book, but here, read this. This is where everything is. But it's very keeper facing. There's no, you have to edit so much stuff because it's the mystery. You don't want to ruin the mystery. Even though, yes, everyone knows Cthulhu and everyone knows, like, all that stuff, and you could search all that stuff on the internet and
that was my feeling, was that there still was a lot of your sweat equity that went into that, constructing that, because in each location is detailed, has its own forum thing. So if you wanted to go to a location, you can go read about it, read about things that have happened there. It's a really interesting way to set up a play-by-post and still avoid the confusion of geography mixing together. Well, wait, would I hear about this? That's happening over in this thread, but where is it happening in town? You know, it's very, very, very different. It also seems like most of the interactions are really with you. I don't talk to other players. I tell you what I'm doing, and then I hear from you the results of my actions and things that happen. I also go and read the posts. So there's not much interaction with other players directly in my experience so far.
You just haven't interacted with other players. You said it yourself. There was actually lots of interaction in private threads that you just didn't see.
Got it. Okay.
R-Dubs, he was
crossed that bridge. Okay.
You just have to be like,
level up. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah. You just need to ask other players. You need to other players too. Like that is sort of an issue of player engagement. You want them to talk to each other. In this sort of game, they don't so much unless that's my job though, is to push people together. I need to push people together more. But like R-Dubs, he ran the Cosa Nostra, and he said, "Well, I want a corrupt cop." And I was like, "Oh, you know what? A player just joined, and I gave him the corrupt cop in Arkham."
Okay.
So
that's great.
There, you can have this corrupt cop, and I gave everyone like a case, and the investigators, patrons created the cases that I gave investigators. And when I gave it to investigators, they had like a payout. Here's what you're getting paid to motivate them to solve the case, and here's all these things. So Ray Stuckey was the detective that was corrupt, and he got paid $150 every time he did something for the Cosa Nostra that was like significant. And that caused a lot of chaos because that crossed the streams to then my local table. They run the FBI. And and so many things happened, like someone burned down the library, someone exploded the police department. And once they exploded the police department, my table players are like, we're taking this seriously and we have a secret underground base and here's what it looks like. And I was like, all right, FBI, we're kind of like our espionage agents before the OSS kind of like got established, because we're playing in 1920 at this time.
Yes. Very important. Classic Lovecraft era.
And, I try to throw in as much history as possible. Like, someone said, like, oh, the Irish gangs didn't work with Jewish. They actually did at this time. And then there was a huge war with the Syndicate and the Mafia, because the Syndicate is a real criminal organization that I pulled from. And then they just joined forces, and now it's just the Mafia these days. And they're both, the Irish had their own thing, of course.
Always the Irish.
The biggest thing that players asked for was a Tommy gun. And Tommy guns didn't come out until March 1921. And so I kept saying, and now that I've advanced the timeline to 1923, there are so many Tommy guns.
Everybody's got one. I'll be sending you orders for Tommy guns.
They're actually not that good. And a couple of the players have gotten mad, like, well, why is this and this? And like, well, they're not that great. Like auto fire, they actually malfunction worse in auto fire. They're really good at single shot, though. My grandpa is a Marine in World War II, and he loved his Tommy gun on single shot. It was the perfect thing for like close. That's what he said. Is like you just take out so many Nazis with a single shot Tommy gun. You only really use auto fire in desperate situations.
Mo's asking which real world city. Actually, it was based in Arkham. So
yeah,
not Arkham real world city.
Yeah, Arkham was a city H.P. Lovecraft invented because he didn't want to insult anyone in any other city by his horror stories. So he invented Arkham, and then all the people that contributed to the mythos, the Cthulhu mythos, they created like the Miskatonic Valley, or Miskatonic County and stuff, and that's kind of like it's a good setting for Cthulhu, because there's lots of, if you've read the stories, you're like, oh, look, the witch house. Like, I know there's something there. My character might not, but I really want to like investigate. Yes. I investigate that, and that's where I pull out like the occult skill or the mythos skill to know if like there's something there, But you also have to like one problem we sort of ran into is like, how do I get to these other cults to attack them? And so it was kind of like, I think you said it like, this is almost like a superhero game.
Yeah. Yeah, it really was starting to turn into that and well, we ended up with costume vigilantes patrolling the streets.
Oh yeah, the players got tired of being targeted by you guys.
Mm-hmm. See, I was trying to like hang back, be diabolical, lay out trails of breadcrumbs, be a little sinister, and I've got competitors blocking out the sun. I didn't know I was that outmatched right out at the beginning.
Yeah, that was because they were using Call Deity. And so one problem with Cthulhu that might be difficult for people is this is an advanced game. You shouldn't be running any other RPG until you've run AD&D, or some version of it, like Moldvay Basic, whatever.
Okay.
AD&D just has a lot of.
Why is that? Can you qualify that statement for me?
They assume a lot of things that you should already know, and you would only know those things, but if you've run D&D before. Now, Sandy argues this point a lot on Twitter, that it has nothing to do with D&D. But, for instance, in the book, it doesn't even tell you what contact deity does. Now it has a whole description of how you cast the spell and what you need to cast the spell. And then when it goes into the descriptions of the deities, it doesn't actually say what it does.
Right. Okay. Here's the list of deities you can contact, but we just presume that, well, whatever when you contact the deity, it's just over. Whatever you're doing is over.
But if you're a more experienced DM, you can kind of figure that out. But a new DM, that's going to be a little bit of a barrier for him to figure out what each of these spells does. It doesn't really say what call deity does or anything. I added the whole thing where like, you ask it for a wish, I guess.
Yeah.
Ask it for a boon.
Oh, he was asking which American city
I see.
provides the history for Arkham.
I mean, it's right. I haven't really used like. There's so much in the book already that I could go easy mode and turn off my brain. But things that I did have to base some history on, I tried to like be as accurate as I can, since and that's especially because I'm sort of a gun nut. So any sort of guns people got, I try to be like, okay, you probably don't have that thing. You might not have this thing. Someone asked for tear gas, and I was like, I don't think that's like available except in artillery shells.
Right. Okay.
It sort of depends on what era those things are, because it's also sort of hard to. I'm using like the internet and the silly AI Google
right, yeah, which will
that I argue
hallucinate with certain answers.
Yeah, I didn't really base it off of a city. I've been to Boston a bunch of times, so there's probably a lot of Boston in my Arkham, I guess would be the best way to answer that.
Oh, it's New England. That's the best fit, I think. How does this affect the win condition of the game? Is it harder for Braunstein players to shut the notebook, put the amulet down, and just go the heck home? So, well, there's the thing, Pun King. The faction leaders, the guys heading the big bad evil cults, are the guys trying to contact the deities. And it is the investigators and various other mortals trying to stop us, and they failed utterly.
Oh yeah, that was because it was pretty funny actually. The conditions I gave R-Dubs was he had to teach 10 people each a different spell before he could use his call deity spell. And he had to write his own mythos book. And he got, I think, 9. He got 9, and those are all people in his faction. And so he turned in one of his faction leaders to the FBI, and this guy kept trying to make deals with the FBI for weeks on teaching them a spell. And finally they relented. But the day they relented, they had killed a bunch of R-Dub's guys. See, because Call of Deity takes a lot of magic points. And if you know the spell, you can dedicate all your magic points to that spell. And each magic point is your percentage chance of success.
So, that takes a lot, yeah.
Yeah, and they killed some of their like lame Mook followers that could only contribute 1 magic point each. And they killed a bunch of them. So there was like a chance that R-Dubs was going to fail, and that the Arkham cult was going to fail, and that the Syndicate was going to fail. And so I just rolled like 3 sets of percentile dice all at once and chucked them all. And whoever won that. And R-Dub's particular god wants to bring magic back to the world, so he ripped a hole in reality into the Dreamlands. So the Dreamlands is bleeding through in the north of Arkham.
Nice. Howdy, Primeval, glad to see you.
And that's also then that leads to the next campaign. So now that campaign's over. Bro Cultic 1's over. Bro Cultic 2, well, they need some sort of like, I like Egypt, so I want to set it in Egypt, and I just happen to have a really, really old Call of Cthulhu book on Cairo.
Okay.
So I'm lazy. I'll use those things, you know. you can use.
Well, it
modules
seems a
and
waste.
stuff
Like I was saying, there was so much material and so many just locations to explore within the Discord that you had mapped out that it really shows that you're making effective use of those resources. That's the way it should be done.
and if you looked, you could have found where every player lives.
Wow.
I kept
Wow.
putting all of the investigators in the same apartment complex because I thought it was funny.
Right. So, oh, oh my goodness. When we return to Arkham, that's going to be such a thing. So,
I answer one of
let's.
this guy. I use the 6th edition. We play 7th edition, but I've been playing Cthulhu for so long. I have like 5th to 7th edition stuff. You just use the resources you got. I didn't really like the 7th edition Arkham book. I thought it is too gaudy. I don't know, that paper they use is kind of goofy. Like my 7th edition books are like, my Keeper's book is ragged. That thing's falling apart.
Is it?
Yeah,
I haven't
just
used mine that much. They're still fairly new for me.
Yeah, it's a hardback, and I don't know. It's just like the way these modern companies don't have any quality control. I guess I don't know. Maybe they have better books now, or I just got a bad batch.
Yeah, and so much print on demand. Like there's stuff I've got. The rule cyclopedia I have is a print on demand, and it's there are certainly places where the print quality is not so great. Not so great. But
I love the second edition. Oh, sorry. I love the 6th edition Cthulhu books. They're probably the best ones.
Okay.
In my opinion. They're so well researched. And it's funny about
I have the Call of Cthulhu D20 book from many, many years ago now, and that was a surprisingly good book for like a D20 clone into into Call of Cthulhu. It was surprisingly good, and I a lot of good historical resources, like you just said.
There is a lot of stuff like in the 7th edition. Well, what I really like about Cthulhu is they have a Keeper's book and they have an Investigator's book.
Mm-hmm.
And I just let my table players, whenever I swear, they ask me the dumbest questions. And I'm like, it's in the book. Read the book. Like, don't ask me that. Or they're asking me questions on their character sheet. Like, it's in there, man. It's like, no, it isn't. It's like, it's right there. And I point to it like upside down.
Right. So that seems to be a theme. You've mentioned that a couple times now. It annoys you when your players don't read the rules.
Yeah, it does. Especially if they're trying. People get obsessed with the optimal thing, how to be the most optimal, and this is why I like just rolling everything. It runs so smoothly. And it doesn't take away any agency. I feel like you have more freedom when you're not constrained by what's on your sheet. Like, just do an action. Just because you're not going to be successful, you can still try it. And sometimes when you try things that are super hard and you win, it feels really good.
Yes. I understand that mentality is sometimes super optimizers are looking for ways to minimize risk, but maximize the rewards. It's that sort of, they always want to take the safest path, the most tactical one, or the one that gives them the best chance of success. But I agree. I mean, many times when I'm playing a new system, particularly, I don't want to know the rules at all. I just want to try and think as my character and make choices based upon that. Whatever the setting, whatever my role or personality is for the character, that's what I want to do rather than fixating on, well, my stat is this and my skill is this and I'll have whatever. I want to make more natural feeling choices when I'm learning a game. And then after I've gotten that under my belt, like an idea of what the world feels like, then I'm more interested in learning mechanics.
Well, sometimes you got to be harsh because you're trying to teach. Like, the whole purpose of my Discord is just to teach people. And I made everyone their characters, and I make all the rolls. You just tell me what you're doing. I don't even write in my... Yeah, this is like what people call story gaming, I suppose, is because we're just like sending messages back to each other. You story game a lot more in play by post. And I do like to write, something descriptive, at least, of the action, so I don't have to write like, oh yeah, you rolled a 13, you got a critical hit, good job.
Right.
Instead, I say like, you blow their head off or whatever, or you miss and you shoot, but you hit this like beam, and then a bunch of boxes fall on their head, and then you kill the monster. Congratulations. And a couple of times, like one character has said, well, I tried to have there's a huge mega dungeon under Arkham. And your cult was like kind of the ones that made it that way. So you kind of ran that area.
Yeah.
And there was chances where I had different tables for different factions, like, okay, you're going into this area, so it's going to be like these kinds of monsters. And I made dungeons for a lot of the places. Like Corbett House is a starter set like adventure, and that's how I started the campaign, was with Corbett House. And then that turned into one of the other characters buying that area illegally, and then that started a case with this landlord like, hey, someone stole my property from me and sold it, which they didn't know. They sold it to like a zombie that's been dead since like the 1870s, but technically he still owned the property.
Right. Okay.
And so they're like, who is this guy? And then they're researching this guy. It's like, this guy died in 1860. Why is he the owner of the property? And then that started this whole like dungeon thing, and they barricaded, because when you leave a dungeon, what happens? Is it just static?
Well, time stops. That we all know that. Just the session ends, time stops, and we just pick up at the moment we left off, because I don't want to have to worry about when my character
got tired of all those. He got tired of all those intruders, so he started dominating like greasers around the neighborhood to work for him, and then they boarded it up. And then there was only like one entrance into the dungeon. You had to get past the greasers, which was a really funny moment when the private eye investigator on the Discord.
There were greasers in the 20s?
Well, I don't know. I just thought it sounded better than... You want to have like unique, different gangs, because to the outsider, all these cults just look like gangbangers.
Yes, they look like crazy people.
Yeah, and that's how I tried to describe a lot of the news articles, that was like gangland violence, happening in Arkham over bootlegging.
And now, what are the prohibition years? You surely had to research that. I don't recall off the top of my head.
I think it was in 27 or 28 is when it ended.
That doesn't come until later. Okay.
It started in I think Volstead Act was like 1918 or 19, somewhere around there.
Okay.
So there was like a speakeasy, and the speakeasy was where everyone met. As long as you're of a proper social class, you could go into the speakeasy.
That's are improper social classes?
Oh yeah, that's based off of your credit rating, which is a skill in Call of Cthulhu.
Yes.
And that's how you determine wealth and everything. And so if you gain a lot of wealth, your credit rating can go up, because when you use skills in Cthulhu, they get a little check. And then after a case, or I said a case, successfully completing a case or a month passes, you get those skill checks, you get recharge on your luck.
Mm-hmm.
But credit rating was different. That you only got a skill check if you got enough money past this like social class threshold.
Oh, and
I've used it I've also used credit rating once again. The most useful like skill in the game. I really like how it handles money.
Yes.
You have like a daily limit you can spend, and then you have like what's your cash on hand, and then you have assets, which are like stocks and stuff you could pull, and that takes like a week. If a character pulled some stuff from his assets, he got it a week later.
Right.
Time is important, and there is this like all this stuff is already in Cthulhu of 1-to-1 time. It's just not said. It's never stated one time. But books take time to learn. Skills take time to learn. You heal 1 hit point a day without any sort of medical attention.
Since most investigations tend to be a short span of time, relatively speaking, those things never come into effect. But playing in a game where you're tracking 1 day to 1 day, that stuff really makes a huge difference.
Well, and like last night, there's some investigators. They're investigating something, and they're like, okay, we're going to hit the library on the ship. There is a smell left by Chad Peterson on his clothes, and so they're like, what is the smell? And they critically failed to roll, and so I had them go to the garden and under a very nice lemon tree with a very nice spot to sit, and they're like, this is not what we were looking for. And then one of them said, we're going to go to the library to get these like different smells. Like, well, it says in the book under library use, it takes several hours to do the skill. And if you roll really well, I like in 7th edition, it has the tiers. It has a regular, hard, and extreme success rate for everything from your stats to your skills.
Okay.
6th edition, they use like a tolerance table where you have to, it's sort of the same thing as how they set it up here. And I think it's a lot smoother in 70. That's why I use 70. I think it's a lot smoother.
Okay.
But 60
No, I'm not experienced with various editions in Call of Cthulhu, so.
Oh, you guys have had as little contact with the rules as possible.
That's the truth. That's it's so bad. I'm so bad. I haven't even like looked up the spells my faction leaders have. I really need to do that so I can try and do something more productive in the next round.
And so that actually, because when they decided to do this, the funniest thing in this game, everyone does everything at 9 o'clock or later. So if we're using real time, which I am, that means they're investigating these horrible, horrible monsters
at night.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, we've got day jobs. You don't want to interrupt normal life with this stuff. This is why all horror movies happen at night.
Because it's funny, all my players are working people. We all work. We all have jobs. We all have shit to do in the day.
Yeah.
You can't be like sitting here role playing all the time, except at night for some reason, when things are the worst.
That's when it's time to go out.
Yeah,
Let's go out and face danger.
Said, okay, so this library thing is going to take a couple hours. So I didn't reply to their library search thing until this morning.
Were they pissed?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
They're like, okay, it's sort of hard with play-by-post to understand, like, okay, is this section over? Was this a session? Are we still, is this still session 1 or is this session 25?
Right. Yes. So where are we exactly? It all sort of blurs together. Is it a new day? Is it a new session?
Which can be fun with play-by-post, and you're using time as a actual resource. It takes time to do things. I think that should be important.
Absolutely. I really do feel that that's the case, and it definitely matches best when you have a larger number of players all working in different directions, even if they're not necessarily at odds with one another. When you're running a living campaign like this, where it's the world marches ahead at the same pace as the real world, so if somebody is gone for a couple weeks or a month, when they come back, you got to go, okay, what have you been up to for the last couple weeks or a month? That's at least happened. What's that?
That has actually happened. We actually have a player who I've been playing RPGs with for about 20 years. and he has a Cthulhu character from 15 years ago, and he was the last survivor of my Greenland campaign. And
boy, that's a hot topic in the news.
yeah, I know. And I taught those guys what Greenland actually was, because none of them knew what the hell Greenland was, which was a really funny moment. We were playing with like a bunch of high schoolers,
right,
at the time, and they told me like, yeah, I learned so much about Greenland because you're using like trying to use real articles, and I was like looking up like, oh, what happened in like I think it was like a 1915 campaign or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like what happened in 1915 at this date, and I'd look it up like, oh yeah, there's like a huge football like thing. So I threw that into a news article I printed out for him. So you like to have things happen in the game. Each action generates some sort of rumor. There's a stank left after everything you do, and it affects the world. So I like to do like monthly news catch-ups of here's all the things that happened throughout the month, because it might be hard to like keep track of all the rumors, because I use this Discord bot called Voltaire to leave secret rumors. It won't say who's the poster, so anyone can use it, and I encourage everyone to use it, and to generate false rumors if that's what your action's going to be for that day. So if I like to have like an action economy, I guess, sort of like each person can do one thing.
Mm-hmm.
As long as like, and if we're sitting here role playing back and forth doing a case, like that's a little bit ignored. But a patron, they have a grand scheme they're trying to do. They have some sort of plot they're trying to do. And on the ship, there's actually one patron that's in charge. There is an ultimate bad guy on the ship. And I use a rule from Pulp Cthulhu where if an investigator spends luck, they give that luck to the bad guy.
Okay.
So whatever case you're working, you're giving it to a patron, and that's the only way a patron gets luck. And people have been, and luck is also, I use that for the random roll. Whatever random roll you might need, I use luck. So encounters is based off luck.
Mm-hmm.
And how well you roll, and that's going to the regular, hard, extreme success. That determines how good the encounter is. So an extreme success on luck means you have a good encounter.
Okay.
But if you fail, you get like a normal human encounter. If you critically fail, that's a mythos encounter.
Oh. How often does that happen?
Well, if you have no luck, what do I roll?
What do you roll if they have no luck?
It's always a mythos encounter.
With no luck, it's always a critical fail. I love this logic. Yeah. I'm going to use it from now on.
You just shit out of luck, right? So they're encouraged, and luck allows you to do some very pulpy things. Like if you die and you have at least 30 luck, you can spend all your luck, and you now have to explain how you didn't die from that thing. How did you survive?
Right.
And different things like that. And I usually do that like because I'm rolling all the things, so there's sort of like I use my best judgment on spending luck. Like, would you spend luck on this roll? Is this a very important roll? Then I should probably spend luck on it. But when they die, I give them two scenarios. Like, here's what happened to you. But if you spend all your luck, this is what happens.
Oh.
And there's been a character that has had 0 luck for a long time. I don't know how he survived my dungeons, because he was like, you know what? We're going down in this dungeon. I want a flamethrower. Like, well, you don't have flamethrower skill. He's like, well, what's it start at? 10%. He's like, fuck it. I'm still getting a flamethrower. I'm bringing it down there. I critically succeeded when I did their combat with the flamethrower. And I was like, man, that flamethrower like saved you.
See, I knew what I was doing. Oh,
And
man.
now,
Oh,
because he
man.
succeeded, he got a skill check on flamethrower. Now he's really good at flamethrower.
Oh, my
So
goodness.
that goes back to like being willing to take a chance on something you're not good at.
Yes.
And he got a huge benefit from that, taking that chance. He not only saved his all his characters, but he got more skill now in flamethrower, so he has a higher chance of saving all the characters again.
Right. Right. And, there's a minimal chance of friendly fire.
Oh, I suppose there can be. See, these guys, like, giving them 3 characters that are the investigators, 3 characters that are basically like kind of like their friend group, their connections and stuff, their partners in discovering the mythos. It allows them to not work with other characters a little bit more because they have this group that they can rely on. But in a big thing, like there's a big case on the ship right now where one character found some evidence relating to your character. One of your characters got murdered very early on on the ship, and they got some stuff stolen from him, and that was another investigator. That was another investigator, of course. So a third party is investigating this murder because it's a big event on the ship. Who murdered the Chinaman? Man Wah, the manservant. And so this group of characters started following the trail of another player, busts into their room they broke into the armory of the ship and got their guns because no one has guns on the ship. They're all stored in the armory. And confronted this character, but see, a patron was like, yeah, so I'm going to have this character break into people's rooms to look for this mythos book I'm supposed to look for. And I was like, well, this is a perfect opportunity to bring this guy with a Tommy gun in and just unload on all of these other player characters. And he killed one, and pretty much everyone else is critically injured because of this event.
Did this happen in one of your sessions, in one of your IRL sessions?
No, this was all play by post.
All play by. Ooh.
And it was because of an order from another character. And now they're looking for this Tommy gun wielder, and they ran into some horrible monsters down in the cargo hold.
Nah.
Now they're investigating that.
Rumor? Silly rumor. And monsters in the hold. Who believes in that kind of crap?
Because there's all kinds of missing people now. There's, I think, 4. There's 4 missing people.
Probably just got drunk and fell overboard.
That's what the officers want you to believe.
The officers are clearly right. You're crazy to think anything else. Monsters in the hold. Ludicrous.
Yeah, there's no such thing as friendly fire because all your friends will be dead if you open fire with that flamethrower too early.
Water bottle exploded next to us. We got out of the room quicker than the Flash, and he never wanted to finish his adventure. Yeah. I imagine if that happened while I was playing a horror game, I'd be like, yeah, okay, that's it for tonight. We're done. We'll resume this later.
Yeah, I always used to complain that Cthulhu had too many skills because you're playing like scholars or psychologists or whatever, and you always get a cheeky person that's like, yeah, can I put 90 in dodge?
Right, yeah.
Which has happened. It happened. My table player, he's like, yeah, I'm tired of dying, so because his character died, and so he made a new character, and he had 90 dodge.
And what was his rationale for that?
Oh, he's a soldier. He's a veteran of the Banana Wars.
Okay, yeah. So he just that's how he lived through the war, dodging.
Yeah. Yep. And it's interesting because as far as the combat rules go, you can either attack or you can dodge.
Mm-hmm. So he's never attacking; he's always dodging.
Yeah, so it's not a big deal. It's actually not as big a deal as you would think. And that's also a big complaint online. Oh, don't ever let your characters have 90 dodge.
Huh. Like, yeah, but it's a big trade-off because then they're never attacking. It's like, you know.
So yeah, there's with everything, there's just a lot of very, very bad and terrible advice online by people that don't read the rules. Then they make up a new rule because there's a situation where that rule they didn't read is needed. And then they tell people they continue to play with this for like the next 30 years and then tell people this is how you play the game. But then when you read the book, you're like, that rule's not in here.
In older editions, martial arts was the best skill, an extra skill for close combat.
Yeah,
my first time playing was in high school, and my character went and signed up for karate classes after an encounter with the deep ones. And he went to a firing range. He learned how to shoot.
All you need is karate when you're fighting fishmen.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Those guys can be a lot tougher than they look.
Well, it's pretty funny because the character that killed Manoir is terrible unarmed combat, but I rolled a critical success in the fight. I was like, oh, Manoir is dead. And Maul was the better fighter, and this guy is just like lucky chop sockeyed him right in the neck or something.
Oh man, that sucks. And you know that means that whoever, I think whoever killed Manoir must be the baddest dude. So that's who I'm eyeing. Who do I think is the deadly killer with the bare hands?
Just sometimes you just get a lucky shot. You know, I do like 6th edition, but man, there's even more skills in 6th edition. It's ridiculous. Every little thing had a skill for weapons. Like every weapon type had a different skill.
Oh, yeah, that can become a little bit cumbersome, you know. I can understand it to a degree, you know, but I think there comes a difference, you know, where do I need separate skills for revolver and automatic pistol?
Well, and that goes back to again, it's AD&D roots.
Right.
All RPGs just go back to like AD&D.
Gee, you know, we're thinking came first or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, right? And there's just that. I mean, that's how weapon proficiency works. Is you have a proficiency for each specific thing, and you try to replicate that with every. You see it. You see a lot of AD&D in Cthulhu. I mean, H.P. Lovecraft's in Appendix N. AD&D is a horror game. I mean, think about it. Going into these creepy dungeons.
The Cthulhu mythos was in the earliest deities and demigods.
So there's just so many links, and I think this goes back to my previous huge tangent, because I like to go on tangents, as you can tell. I have so many thoughts flowing through my head. I just shoot from the hip.
But you know, that's kind of what we do here, so you're in good company.
There's just a lot of like useful things in the 1st edition DMG that has helped me run this game, like specifically encounters. I just use the encounter tables in there, and I'm like, okay, I rolled an orc. What would that be? That's an Italian. Yeah, those are mafia guys. Okay.
It could be so much worse. You could have said Mexican.
And then you just determine like, okay, and I still use the same encounter numbers and stuff like that. One time I got an encounter of a snake while someone was driving to a case, and I was like, how are they going to run across a snake while driving? And I was like, okay, this is going to be a classic bandit setup where there's a car flipped over and there's someone on the road. And if the players are stupid enough, which thankfully they were, they stopped. And a guy came into the driver's side and threw a bunch of rattlesnakes at him. So that's how I use the snakes. Like I try to do a lot of zero prep.
I see. Yeah. You're using the random encounter tables from D&D and just being interpretive. I think that is good. Have you ever used oracles before? Done solo play or anything like that?
I can't get into it.
Understood.
But I do use oracles. Now, each
Yeah.
Cthulhu skill is an oracle. When I need a question answered based off of an order, I go, okay, would these two characters meet? And what skill would that determine? Okay, he's going to roll stealth and he's going to roll spot hidden. And I'm going to do an opposed check to see if during the course of this person's orders, this guy who also has orders in the same area cross paths. Or when someone needs to know something, like they're asking about what kind of gun shot did they hear.
Beg your pardon, I'm back now. But I was listening. So you were using the example of listening as a skill. They with a good enough skill roll, they can say like what kind. I heard a gunshot. Oh, that was a shotgun or a pistol or what have you.
Or if they have a really high like firearm skill, I might use that. It just depends. But they are like the skills are oracles in that way.
I really do feel that, and I've done stuff like oracles practically my whole career because a lot of times when a question comes up at the table, if I don't know, I'll go, can I find a rock about the size of my hand so that I can throw into that magic field? Well, I don't know. I'll roll a d6 and 1 to 3, no, 4 to 6, yes. But it's evolved into that. I like the Mythic GM emulator. That's a nice system unto itself that bolts well onto any other role-playing system, and I would consider it a good GM aid for people who like that kind of thing. I think you'd find it redundant given the way you're doing things and the resources you use, and you do a pretty good job of tracking characters and threads.
I'm too old school. I got all these notebooks. I use a columnar pad. I don't know if you know what that is.
It's columnar?
Yeah, it's like an accounting pad.
Yeah, an accounting ledger.
Yeah, that's what I use.
Yeah, I got one. I use one too.
Yeah, I use that to fill out everyone's skills and what mythos books they've read, what spells they've learned. I had because one of the other goals was destroy all the mythos books or protect all the mythos books, and you win. And 7 of the mythos books got destroyed, and about like 10 very powerful mythos artifacts got destroyed because someone decided to burn the Miskatonic library. So there is no university library anymore.
I missed that. I was thinking a little while ago of sending one of my characters. I need to go check out the library. No, well, that would have been that.
You'd have to go to the public library, the stinky public library that doesn't have all the mythos tomes in it.
No, I'm going to burn that down out of pure outrage now.
Yeah, that was the opening salvo of the Arkham Witch Cult. It was burning down the library.
Wow.
And it was because they were tracking the players. I mean, he had sent spies everywhere. So it was like, okay, where are the most common places I would go as a player characters? I think that's where his head was at. And he's like, I'm going to send a spy here and a spy here and a spy here. And one of his spies panned out because they were researching the Corbett case at the library. And I decided, oh, yeah, this is my table group. And I was like, oh, yeah, you guys know Henry Armitage. One of your characters is a professor and the other guy's a chemist. So you would probably have met paths. And I tried to really attach the player characters to that faction, the Armitage faction.
What is it that drew you to Call of Cthulhu in the first place? How long you've been playing this game for a long time as well, it sounds.
Yeah, since like 5th or 6th edition.
Did you find the game first or the fiction first?
I found the book in Barnes and Nobles one day when I was this is the 3rd RPG I ever played. I played GURPS after getting sick of D&D for so long. And I was like, well, someone said, oh, you should try GURPS. And I was like, okay, I get that. It's a terrible idea. Whoever said, don't listen to people that tell you to try GURPS.
Friends don't let friends try GURPS. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've avoided it since the 80s.
They try to trick you and say it's so super easy. Yeah, the dice mechanic is extremely easy. You just have to write your entire RPG system book for whatever campaign you're going to do. You have to make a new campaign book for every time. Because then you have to go through all the advantages, what you're going to allow, because it's just like a smorgasbord of game design. And it traps you in this like game design loop.
Yes.
When you just play a game. Like
yes. And it even looks to me like, you know, if you buy one of their resources, like I just buy their cyberpunk book or whatever, it isn't really just like plug and play. I had similar issues with the hero system we got, you know, and we got into Champions many, many years ago with the big blue book. And that was, you know, in good game and everything, but we also tried that fantasy. We were like, oh, let's try instead of D&D, let's try fantasy using the hero system. And it was, oh yeah, no, this is crap. We have to build everything. We don't just have a book of monsters. We got to write stats for everything. You know,
once you play, it is a good system. Both hero system and groups are great dice mechanic systems. They're simple. It's not hard at all.
Yep,
you know, they're both roll under.
Yep. That's similar in that way, from what I understand. Having never played or owned GURPS, it's one of the few things I've got. GURPS ain't so bad. I get free points for already being an obnoxious pun teller.
But Call of Cthulhu was just sitting there. The 5th edition book was just sitting there at Barnes and Noble. And it wasn't even in like. And my Barnes and Noble back then, it was like, oh, we have 5 RPGs. As in, we have 4 D&D books and Call of Cthulhu 5th edition.
Wow. Yeah. Well, and you know, that's funny. My bookstores at the local mall were pretty good as a kid. I got a lot. We ended up finding a lot of what was very rare indie kind of stuff. Like, you know, you could find Palladium books on the shelf at bookstores when I was a kid in the 80s. You know, I bought Mecton at the store the first time. You know, it kind of crazy, the kind of stuff that you could find in bookstores back in the days that you don't see now. Now I'm a little thrown. I see D&D books at Target. I'm like, that seems really strange to me. You know, real stores carrying my hobby. I don't get this.
Yeah, I don't know how many 5th edition books people have given me. Like, oh, look, I saw D&D at Target and I thought of you. I was like, that's cool. I'm not going to tell you I don't play this at all. I don't want to offend them. You know, they're just like, oh,
what
yeah.
What does it take to get you to play?
Oh, well, I had a friend, I had a really good friend, and I would play in his 5th edition games because even though he was a really young kid, I met him when he was 16. I do a lot of like Big Brother stuff, I guess. I'm actually trying to set up a Call of Cthulhu book report contest. And at the local library, because the librarian there, he's always seen me printing off stuff, and I talk to him. He used to play D&D, and he's like, well, have you ever thought about running a game here? And I said, well, the only way I would do that is if I did a book report contest and the winners get to play in my campaign. And I'll make it all official. You know, they have to use like a certain kind of like, you know, one of those book report folders like fancy college people do.
Okay.
And I'll use that as their character sheet folder.
Nice. Is this happening now, or is this like potential in the future?
This is something I'm planning. I have to think of maybe like 10 Cthulhu stories that library has, because I want to work with the library. And
right. You want to encourage the new generation to read these stories and get in on it.
Because, you know, a lot of people do know like Cthulhu and Lovecraft, but I don't think they've really read any of his stuff. They just know it because it's huge pop culture. You know, right now it's ingrained.
really is. Like, you can have heard of Cthulhu. It'd be surprising if you haven't heard of Cthulhu and Lovecraft, even if you've never read any of the fiction, given that the penetration into pop culture.
And I think they're really good stories. He just has a way of like using every sense, but in his descriptions. But the very last thing he'll describe senses is visually. He'll describe what it sounds like, what it smells like, how it feels when the thing is near you, and then they'll do the jumps. He'll do the jump scare, and here's the full view of the monster. And that's usually when the hero is like gone insane at that point.
Yeah. What are your favorite Lovecraft stories?
Well, I like the Dunwich Horror. That was the first one I've read, and I've read a lot of his little short stories.
I have to especially congratulate 7th edition for using the Dunwich Horror, because it is the prototypical adventure for Call of Cthulhu.
But funny enough, I lean more on like Robert E. Howard as my Cthulhu like influence for this game, because he just has a way of getting to the point. Now, he may have some sort of mystery, but eventually he's like, and it belongs to this thing, and that's actually the mystery solved as I'm stabbing the monster and shooting him in the gut. He like gets straight to the point, and he's just great at like describing combat in a flowing way. I don't understand, like, I try
I'm
to
very new to Howard myself, but I've read a little bit of Solomon Kane and a little bit of Conan, and really good stuff.
Yeah, d10.org.
tinyD10.org.
Yeah, that's his name. He sent me a collection he is working on, because I put on the timeline. I was debating which H.P. Love or Robert E. Howard or H.P. Lovecraft books I wanted to buy to kind of get in the right. You need to kind of read stories to get in the right headspace of whatever you're playing.
You really do. You really do. So my experience was a little strange because it was reverse. I got introduced to the game first. I'd heard about it for years, never knew anybody with a copy until a friend in high school. And I was like, but I haven't read any of the stories. He goes, you don't need to. We rolled up a character and played. Tons of fun, got into it. So I learned more about like reading the rules and the monsters and stuff like that than I ever it was many years later, like a decade later, before I read my first actual Lovecraft story. Pick one up, and I was hooked right from Jump Street. That first little anthology I bought of his, and just devoured that like there was no tomorrow. And I'm ever so slowly making my way through an anthology collection of everything of his, even what appears to be stuff that he didn't release when he was alive.
Yeah, because there's, August Derleth, like he's a big mythos author, and a couple other ones that.
For some reason, I'm a purist. I want Lovecraft himself and none of the others.
Same. It's very interesting though, because of the time he was writing these books back in the 20s and the 30s. They didn't have these kinds of entertainments that we have now, so he had pen pals. He had people that had read his stories and talked to him, and this is how he made friends. He made friends with Robert E. Howard. They're best friends.
Yep.
And they would write stories to each other where they had killed that person they're talking to. Like, haha, I killed you, HP. I killed you in the story. A staircase fell on your head. And you're like, oh, you jerk. I'm going to kill you in a story now.
Right, yeah.
And that's how that mythos kind of started, because a lot of Howard's works are very mythos oriented.
Yeah, there's a huge influence, even when it's set way back in the Hyperborean times or what have you. A lot of crossover, and the sort of things that Solomon Kane fights against really smacks of that sort of Cthulhu mythos influence.
So that's how that mythos started, is everyone working together to create a lore. And so it's really, I think, really reminiscent of playing these games. is how the lore clubs, game clubs back in the day, they would invade each other. Like, oh, okay, we're invading your D&D kingdom. We're the club from across the city, and then they change the whole history and the whole lore. So I'd like to get back to that kind of stuff of other game clubs forming. You can have a game club online if you do it right, and spreading their chaos to other people's campaigns and inflicting different things on others' campaigns because you brought over a bunch of weird gibbering mouthers in your airship and you crash land on the planet, of someone else's game. And now, even if you didn't have any gibbering mouthers, now you do.
Well, and we're hearing from other guys in the bros I know, like from the Living Earth server, a certain magic sword went from one world to the next, and that was it. So it was an artifact was literally passed from one campaign to the next, and that's a really cool thing. I love that idea, and I guess one of the things that it takes is it does take an understanding between the various participants, because it would be very hard for an AD&D campaign to interact with a 5th edition campaign for a variety of reasons.
You would think so, but King Eldon in Dracoheim is a 5th edition
yes,
server.
it is.
King Eldon is actually from the Mighty Earth Empires campaign from the Living Earth Club. And that was, I guess, White Box is where he started, and Chainmail. He was a Chainmail army.
Okay.
Zombie army, except everyone was lawful good players in that campaign. And Mighty Earth was, it's a rule set for Warmaster. Mighty Empire, sorry, it's Mighty Empires is the campaign rule set for Warmaster. GW, like war game, where you're running different cities and such. And so R-Dubs ran this in the Earth server, the Living Earth server. And I made a character, like everyone was making all these knights and these lords, and I was like, well, that's dumb. Those guys are freaking boring. I'm making a zombie army with guns. And the way Chainmail is like it's very customizable how you do things, because there isn't any rules that say you can't give guns to a zombie army. And I gave him arquebuses, and I
don't know. That sounds like a heck of a can of worms to say, well, the rules don't say this.
And I put some arquebusiers on wyverns, because there's no rules that say I can't do that. And R-Dubs
the rule book doesn't say no tiefling ballerinas. So
and I got cannons, and R-Dubs is like, yeah, that's fine. That sounds cool. Like, you have a cool chaos army. All right. And then when I have contact with the other players, I like basically started an arms race after my very first battle, because it was revealed how silly my army was. And like, there's a Dark Lord rising. What's going on? We're all lawful good knights. And I brought King Eldon to another game that was just, I used some characters from it. Some of the Living Earth people actually used one of my commanders. I let him use my commander. I believe it was Hoot Owl. It was either Hoot Owl or...
Okay.
Oh, I can never remember his name because he always changes it. He's in the other... Anyway, I let them use my commander for a game, and someone was like, hey, can you give me the stats for your thing, because I need an evil army for my game session. Like, can you give me the stats for your dungeon and everything? Like, where's your dungeon? And I gave them all that information, and that's like a huge popular like dungeon crawl, like to get this like crazy treasure I have in there. And I wrote up some magic items for the DM, and I have transferred King Eldon to 5th edition. Just made him a lich. That's what I was.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, there was some points where you just can't kill me, and I just thought that was really funny as a lich, because he just comes back in 1d10 days. So someone killed me, and I was like, I'll be back in 1d10 days. It's like, what's that mean? It's like, you're above your pay grade, man.
Well, and you were certainly the first source of convergence that got me into the action in Drakkenheim. That is for sure.
Oh yeah, serious DM. I drew up all my dungeon. I drew up my 6 levels of my dungeon because my whole plan with Drakkenheim was like I want people coming into my dungeon. And so, what's the treasure in my dungeon? I was like, whoa, spell components are really expensive. Like, I need diamonds for this like spell, so I guess I have a room full of diamonds or something. Because he gave me a budget, so I bought all my spell points with the budget, and then I gave him my dungeon for Halloween last year. And a bunch of players ran into that, and I was tried to keep silent that they're in my dungeon, and they're like running into my commanders and stuff. One of them broke my golem because my whole faction was the Monster Mash. I had an undead sorcerer. King Eldon's wife was a vampire lord, and I had a flesh golem for my Frankenstein. I had another commander that was a werewolf. He had a whole werewolf army, and then I had God, I can never say. I had a fishman, but I had a creature from the Black Lagoon.
Right. Sagwagan, Lokatha, one of those.
Yeah, it was Sagwagan. I can never pronounce it. Those silly ass words they invented. Like, how do you say that? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It makes me wonder, like, where exactly did you come up with that word? They also have that crazy manta ray race in the original Monster Manual. The
whatever. Oh yeah, a bunch of X's monster.
Yeah, those guys. Those ones that I never used because I never wanted to try and pronounce that.
Well, that's Gygax in a Dragon magazine said if you ever want to create a monster, just use a bear. Just use the stats for the bear, and then add whatever kind of goofy things. So the Monsters Manual is really handy, even if you don't ever use that. You have the stats for something weird like that, and you can just rename it. You can reskin it.
Yes, actually, I am a fair hand at reskinning things on the fly just to scare players. Oh my god, I've never seen this before. He's making up something original. Yeah, I totally am. Totally, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, I don't know how many times
with poison.
Yeah, I don't know how many times I've reskinned a bear as something, and I'm like, that was the toughest monster we ever faced. But in my head, I'm like, it was just a bear, and I gave it like a tentacle attack.
I mean, that's probably where the displacer beast came from. Is this it's a big puma. It's a big puma with tentacles. It's tentacles, and it's not really there. It's over there. Take that in your pipe and smoke it, you jerks.
Well, sometimes your players start doing really good.
I love that movie specifically because I hate that kind of thief.
See, I'm actually like, yeah, I'll allow it. Did he see you load? Does he see you? No, that's considered a sneak attack, right? Because they're just unaware.
If you've never seen that movie, that's a classic moment. But that one is definitely it's definitely he falls into that category of I'm going to steal his pants. Look, that's where I draw the line, dude.
No, I know that movie. That's the one where he kept saying, like, yeah, there's no elves in my campaign, and he shows up with an elven monk. He says, no elf and no monk.
Another great moment. Because that's classic too. That was the second movie. That was the sequel. They did there's 2 Gamers movies. The first one has I backstab him with the ballista, and the second one has one thing about my new campaign: no elves and no monks. I'm going to play an elf monk.
Yeah, I used to, and they have a new one, but it's not as good. It's kind of lame.
Yeah, I have not caught that one yet. I saw a trailer and it looked terribly uninteresting. So maybe I'll give it. I'll probably end up watching it eventually because I liked the first 2 so much. Okay, Mo has a question. Do you use real-time events as base of your Call of Cthulhu game, like real newspaper articles? 1920s in Germany were different to your US. World War One was over. Yeah, well, World War One was over for us too. I don't think we kept fighting after that. But
well, and that's World War One
history
is a great background too for investigators, World War One vets. Now, of course, I did use a German World War One vet, but he wasn't a good guy. I just was thinking, okay, someone's investigating. Their name is Stolheim, so they must be okay. And their daughter's part of the cult, but why would they let their daughter be part of the cult? Oh, they're subservient to their teenage daughter, who's a cult leader. And I was like, okay, so they're going to be like some German World War One vets. And that was used as excuse. They weren't cult members; they were German saboteurs. Now, using real articles, you could use that to kick off a case. But if you're running it where you're letting players, which you should let players run your cults in your game, because that leaves a lot of free time for you to work on things that actually matter. You don't need to be determining what the cults are doing, and they will. Their actions will generate news stories. And what I do is I use a lot of different like websites that generate like news articles. And let's see, I try to find this bookmark. There's actually like the HP Lovecraft Society.
Yeah,
has a really good like handout generator. It's like called Cthulhu Architect. If you use Cthulhu Architect, there's all kinds of tools to start like making all kinds of cool little handouts for you. You can also just use like a regular like Word document to make your own handouts for news articles and stuff. But I use a couple like AI tools. You know, it's not really AI. They're just really handy tools for like translating into the right like dialect for things.
Yeah,
to get the old timey like speaking.
Right. I've noticed that on a lot of the news stories and clippings you'll post in the Discord server.
Yeah, I use a couple different ones based on which newspaper, because there's a newspaper for the way I do rumors is the newspapers in Arkham relate to a certain area of Arkham, so you can kind of track down the rumors. If you're getting articles from the Gazette, that means it's like downtown Arkham and stuff. Or if you're getting them from the 4TN Review, that's usually the outskirts of Arkham. Which the 4TN Review was actually made by another player, so they could make fake articles.
Yeah, I love
it. Because it's kind of like an occult magazine, like pulp magazine that has like weird stories in it. And there was always weird stuff going on the outskirts of Arkham.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to take a moment and focus on the thing you just mentioned, though, which is handing the cults off to players. Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about that. What motivated that decision? How did you do it? Why did you do it? And how has it worked out?
Well, when the Broasar was first starting, this was something they did, was to have patrons. High level player characters that were running domains and such, and they would give quests to the players. And there was some problems with that where they pulled back from that and didn't want to use it anymore. But I sort of took I took that and was like, okay, this is actually good. How it ended was bad, because it was a lot of like what they called farm dweebing, where your patron would go to like a dungeon with their huge army and just like gather all the treasure, fighting on PCs and stuff. That's not what you want to do. Is you want to make them fight other patrons. Mm-hmm. You got to push them together in some way. And that also goes back to a couple things I said where, there was two patrons that were doing an action in town, and I used 2 skills to see if they would actually meet. And then they met. Okay, so that one's going to do a drive-by on the other one while he's at the bookstore.
Right.
And so they meet, and then Well, because I pushed them together to do that, the other one retaliated like you would in a gangster movie. Like, well, I got to retaliate. You know, he shot me up. I'm going to go shoot up his business.
What is different about what you're doing that doesn't lead to the farm dweebing?
I think it's probably the nature of Cthulhu, and also like I made them chased mythos tomes, right?
Mm-hmm.
They needed mythos. They needed to either destroy mythos tomes or save mythos tomes. Mythos tomes have really handy spells you can use to explode other people. So that's another incentive to want to get mythos tomes. And I think that helped when you have something that they're both after, it will push them more and more. Like
And
together.
it's scarcity. It's introduced scarcity. It's sort of
Yep.
like, there's only so many of these books in town, in the world, heck, and to get your hand on any number of them is an accomplishment, let alone so many.
Or you give them goals like you need to harvest these specific organs to do the thing you're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm going to start hunting down players, I guess.
Now, on the surface of it, one of the obvious differences is that in AD&D campaigns, they would be playing local lords or what have you, various high-level characters. Whereas in this, the faction leaders are explicitly the villains, we're the bad guys. So
Yeah.
You don't really have good guy factions going on in this, do you?
Yeah, no, I don't. And I think that might be another reason why it's working. As a good guy, you're going to be worrying about, setting up orphanages on fire or whatever. But when you set an orphanage on fire, that creates a case for the player characters to solve.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when you're a really bad guy, now I have to be very careful too, because these cults are like really despicable. Like they do some very evil, like truly evil, like things in order to accomplish their goals. And some of the spells are really like messed up in the head because they're evil spell. It's evil magic.
Yes. So this is not a world of heroic wizards. There's no Gandalf here.
Well, a couple characters are wizards. That's where the mythos tomes are interesting. I think it's a more interesting take on the whole grimoire or spell book like you have in D&D. Because now these people are fighting over your spell book. They want to take your spell book so they can learn the spells. Because if they learn the spells, then they have some sort of power. And especially like investigators, the most important spell for an investigator is dismiss deity. So when you're trying to do something, you're trying to call a deity, they can come up and go, no, you're denied. I've dismissed your deity, or I've killed all your cultists. Like that also
no
works.
more magic points. The magic points have dried up.
Yeah, and magic is a lot stronger than in D&D too. They're like 9th level spells, pretty much all the Cthulhu spells.
Okay. They're wide ranging. Yeah. And that's since all of my previous experience in Call of Cthulhu has been as an investigator, I really haven't studied the magic system much, so I'm not familiar with it.
Because investigators are terrified of the sanity cost of spells. At least my table investigators don't want to ever cast any spells. Because it's like, well, it says I lose 1d6 sanity, or I lose 5 power. What's that mean? My power is lowered permanently? Yes. You have to sacrifice that 5 power. And that comes into like contact deity, but contact deity. Now, how do you think like the villains know the player character stole their artifact? Or even for a better question is, how do they know exactly where they are with their artifact? You ask a god. And that's where contact deity comes in. You can also ask gods for boons of like spells, depending on which god you're talking about. Cthulhu, he's going to send you all kinds of dreams, and you might like get a burst of artistic inspiration and make something of Cthulhu, like some sort of picture or a sculpture. And so that implies that he could actually teach you art skills. So a really good guy, he's just talking to Cthulhu to get better at drawing.
Makes sense. Makes sense. One guy went to the crossroads and learned to play guitar from Cthulhu. I'm pretty sure that I heard that story somewhere.
There is a character, actually, a jazz musician. Because that was another thing. I made songs for everyone using AI. I would write the lyrics and just plug it into a Suno. And whenever anyone did anything amazing, I wrote a song for them. And those became like the songs that were going around Arkham.
Yes, I would check in on the songs frequently.
That's a way to spread information and to spread myth and legend back then was music. How you got your information is, almost like the whole medieval bard thing of this is how they spread knowledge of evil people, but the song wasn't repressed because, hey, that's a catchy tune.
Yeah. Well, and we know it's easier to remember rhyming songs and stuff like that than it is. So if you can, you learn it as an epic poem, how much history can you cram into your brain?
I think it just made people feel like, oh, one character, he was listening to all the songs and writing stuff down at my table. He was like, this is information in here, isn't it? And I kind of like shrugged my shoulders, like maybe. And he's like, I'm writing this all down. This is because I would make dossiers for each of the cults, and there was a hierarchy. Like here's the leader, here's the second in command, and these are the sergeants. And they would have nicknames because I didn't want to use the real names. I had to investigate to get that person's real name. Because my table players, they were playing the FBI, so they're actually trying to make cases for each of the cults to arrest them, arrest the Lord, like you would attack an actual criminal organization, and it organically evolved that way because I have these like dossiers that I printed out. And I also had the same thing for cases, and handouts are really important too, because those are clues you can drop and kind of mull over and make your own.
The game is very, I would dare say, handout centric because you're constantly getting news items, other rumors, the songs that get released. There's always something coming out, usually multiple things to pay attention to going on within the game.
And that kind of goes on the red herring thing. Maybe it's not the proper term for it, but it's a distraction that might not be the thing you're after. But if there's 6 things, okay, which one should I focus on? And I think that adds a little bit of the realism to solving cases and getting distracted. One character,
I kind of feel like each one of those 6 things is the beginning of a trail of breadcrumbs that leads back to the inciting incident. So it's really 6 different ways that it could be picked up by somebody else.
Yep. And there is a problem with, again, player interaction. The players get focused on solving. They're like lock themselves in the room like real investigators, and they have their wall of conspiracy with their strings like going everywhere. And forget to go outside and talk to other people that are also working on the same thing. But it did happen with the private investigator, Kenneth Heath. He actually talked to my table players all the time because they're working on the same case and they were sharing information. And I was the mediator to that because my table players are absolute boomers, even though they're younger than me, and they don't understand Discord. I kept trying to get them to go on Discord so I wouldn't have to keep repeating stuff and printing things out. I was printing out articles for them that I made.
Well, it'll be it's part of the game now. Now you get to you get to play telephone. You can mess with the communications however you see fit.
Back then, they had an operator. They didn't have a phone number. You called the operator. I want to connect to this person. So I was acting like the operator.
Operator. That's crazy. I love it. No, we're coming up 15 minutes left. I wanted to spend the last few bits talking about, we've wrapped up this first major campaign arc in Bro Cultic, and you're launching with a short cruise to Egypt. What can you tell us about this cruise and the phase that's coming up after it's concluded?
The cruise is to get them because they need to find this thing. Is called I think I call it the Rod of Dreams. Might have to. I was working with like what sounds best. It's the Rod of Dreams, and you can. The goals for the next campaign will be to use the Rod of Dreams to close the rift in Arkham, to close the Dreamlands Rip. Use the Rod of Dreams to expand the Dreamlands Rip to all over the world, or destroy the Rod of Dreams.
All right. All right. Well,
So
I know I'm team close the rift all the way.
And see that
rely on me to back that up.
Oh, there is an immortal character. What is Mortiz? Yeah, there is an immortal character.
Yeah.
There is.
Call him no.
And that goes along to one of the goals of like contacting a god. Like, well, what are you going to ask the god? And at first, people are like, one guy was like, well, I'm going to delete all the Jews from existence because the syndicate is full of Jews. And then he's like, oh, that's dumb. I need to think of one that has more player conflict. I don't want to just wipe out my competition. Like maybe I give him a sickness. And he's like going through all these like different things. Like how can I like defeat this other faction and just go, haha, look what I did to your faction. Because there isn't any guidelines on what you can't or can't ask a great old one. I mean, obviously,
would there realistically be limits to what they could do?
Maybe.
Who knows? I mean, would we recognize them as limits? Who knows? That's the whole thing. I mean, how is this thing even understanding you?
And he's also going to destroy reality. That's what all the great old ones are going to destroy the world. There's going to be an apocalypse that happens.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll still play in the apocalypse. We'll still play in the end times. If that's the case. Well, I do eventually want to also keep increasing the timeline, because right now, instead of 1920, it's now it went to 1921 because we're using real time. So the year passed, it's 2026 now. So when I started, it was 1920, but now it was 1921 as we got into January. So I increased it by 3 years. So now it's 1924 for the cruise.
Okay.
And it'll be it's a later, mostly because everyone kept bothering me about the Tommy gun. I wanted to have people get the Tommy gun.
Well, you're kinder than me. That's the kind of thing that makes me dig my heels in and be like, no, you can't have them. I would fast forward, except you want them so bad.
And also it means, every 4 months in the Cthulhu rules, you get to do a skill upgrade. You get a potential 1d10% to your skill every 4 months. And so what I did for the players, I said, okay, you have you're just going to roll 10-sided dice. But if you want to fully study a mythos book, like the Necronomicon, that's going to take 30 skill points that you rolled. And if you want to learn a spell, that takes 10 skill points. So it's basically like, what have you been doing in these 3 years? Have you been learning new skills? Hopefully you're learning Egyptian. Because you're going to Egypt. I'm not lying about that. You're going to Egypt. You might need to learn some Egyptian. You might need to learn things like archaeology. You might need to, learn how to ride, because you're not going to be able to use your car all the time in Egypt.
Care and feeding of camels.
Yep. Well, it just depends on what you just got to think of. Some fun goals. You got to think of goals that cross paths with other players that affect the world, because this is trying to emulate a living world that changes, and the changes, players can change things drastically. In my game, there's no Miskatonic University. Well, now that it's been 3 years, it might be partially rebuilt, because one of the cults was like, I'm rebuilding the library. That was one of their goals.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because that was a huge resource that got taken away from everybody.
Yeah, seriously. Now, one of the things that I wanted to highlight too is so much of the Braunstein elements that you're talking about, the one time, the factions controlled by the players. There's no real NPC GM control going on. Everything's driven by the actions of actual players participating in the game. And that is very much what the Vampire LARP experience was like for me. That's the way the game runs every 2 weeks. When we get together in 2 weeks, 2 weeks is passed for the characters, and the political game comes to life because if I sat down as a GM around with a table of players, I would have to come up with all these NPCs and their different plots and machinations and allies and relationships and stuff. Whereas instead of me coming up with all these elder vampires, I let players play those elder vampires and they fill those roles naturally. You don't have to come up with enemies and antagonists if you allow the players to fill those roles themselves.
You can still use NPCs. I do on the boat trip, on the ocean liner event. I do use NPCs.
Yeah, I mean, because again, you
times,
don't have enough players for the entire world to be populated.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah. How many players you got in your game? 8 billion.
I keep making jokes that I only need 100 players to play Cthulhu worldwide.
Only 100?
Yeah, you want that's if you're doing the real, where you're having players playing commanders for another player's faction that he's running. And that's where you can get some really interesting dynamics when you're having other players run the commanders. And they have to follow, like, okay, I'm telling you the orders that I want you to do while I'm doing something else. And that's where you get like a lot of like how movies, where you get betrayals from your under commander trying to take over your faction, assassinate you, and so you have to placate to them. You have to make them happy. They don't do that while you're trying to do your goal.
And I've been there as a DM. When you do that as a DM, it's, oh, you're a dick. You're screwing me over. You're screwing with my thing. When another player does it to them, they're the dick. They're the screw. Right, but they love it. They love it. They're, when you do it, when you have a character betray a player, they just think you're out to get them. When another player betrays them and stabs them in the back, it creates just so much downstream drama, and it becomes a point of history and lore in the game's history.
My player that I've had for 15 years, I write out cards for all of the items people get. Now he has cards in his game that I gave him as a character that he now uses in his campaign. And they have lore written on it, and people have added stuff to the card, like a magic shield, for instance, was this evil dwarf's magic shield, and this huge, like, I had a huge player versus player, good party versus evil party grand battle, and he was the last man standing and took all their magic items, of course, like you do. He looted all the bodies.
Right.
And so those cards got handed to him. Now those players that had those cards, they're so like moved on from all this stuff, they don't really remember it. But we really liked that, and he gave these magic items to his group that are cards I've written that now they hold, and they've added stuff to it, and then they die, and then that gets that gets passed on as an heirloom item for their next character, or a new player is like, oh, here's this magic shield, and they're like reading the card and like, what is all this stuff? Where'd you get all this stuff?
That's awesome. I love that.
It's this lore that's been growing for 15 years.
Right. And I don't know if it was you, but it's someone else I remember mentioned that recently. Is every magic item goes on its own little 3x5 card or whatever, and it does get added to anybody's sheet, and people pass those cards around to one another. That's a neat mechanism.
It might have been me because, see, Gary Gygax told me to do that.
That's
AD&D
awesome.
DMG. He said this is what you do. You and he even said to give like red herring items. Yeah, draw up a card for a backpack. That's all it is. But they're gonna wonder forever if that's a magic.
Right, here's a backpack. Just because it's got a card doesn't mean it's automatically important. Yeah. Oh, did you cast detect magic on it? It doesn't read as magic. Oh, even more mysterious.
Yeah, one time I gave him a card.
Be an interesting backpack.
I gave him a card one time that was a rock in a giant's pouch, and of course I draw all the items, and I drew this really cool rock with all these runes and stuff on it, and it detected as alteration. Well, it's because that's what they use to make the rock. Wasn't magic. It detected as alterate or transmutation. That's what it was, transmutation. And yeah, those guys, they carried that freaking rock forever. It was 50 pounds too. It was a 50-pound rock because it's like a hill giant's item in his pouch, and so they carried this 50-pound rock in their backpack, and that got transferred to other characters. And I think he has that magic rock still, and he knows it's a joke. But he's like, yeah, I'm going to give this to players in my new campaign. 15 years later, this freaking magic rock, hill giant rock, is still going around in his campaigns.
And that's what D&D is all about when it comes right down to it, making memories. All right, we are coming up on the close of the show here, DM Raptor. Thank you for your time tonight. This has been a great chat, very fun. Where can people find you?
They could find me on Twitter. I have like a protected account, so you have to be my friend, and then we can send each other DMs. I don't post any links to my Discord publicly. There's a lot of people I don't want to interact with. I have blocked one person about 15 times already that constantly tries to join my games and ankle bite and derail it. Like, I wish he would just make a character and play instead of doing all this. I don't like fighting, arguing with people online. I think it's really boring. I just want to show the play style that I'm doing, and people not get all upset about it because I'm telling them a way to play or a way to do things. Like, a lot of times I'm just experimenting, and sometimes it doesn't work, and then someone else will pick up your experiment and be very successful for it. And so it just keeps iron sharpening iron.
Yeah. Well, and like we talked about Drakenheim, I'm really impressed by the sheer body of work he's produced. All the random tables, the subsystems for generating factions, quick encounters, random encounters for all the various types of terrain. He has done an impressive amount of work on that.
Yeah, Serious DM's really, he's a good player too. He actually played the Pacific Railroad in my Boot Hill game.
Oh, nice. All right, sir. Thank you, DM Raptor. And ladies and gentlemen, this has been another enticing episode of the best goblin-led podcast in all of North America. It's a very narrow demographic, but it is all mine. And thank you. Join us next week, ladies and gentlemen, for another episode of Jawin with Jack.